Welcome back. Today we're going to tie a Smoke Wagon. This is a single hook fly, super simple. I've got it in the new book, the Modern Streamers book, and it's in the back here. It's one of the first of the, when we're going through, I was talking about this as the single hook flies. It's kind of one of those, it's a multi-purpose fly. I use it a lot as a trailer, and when I'm running 2-fly rigs, this is my absolute go-to. I fish 2 or 3 flies as trailers because I basically I'm just back there for, it's just hunting. Sometimes when things are tough, you'll have fish coming up on your bigger flies, and for some reason, when they won't commit, you put this little minnow thing back there and they just annihilate it, and it's really cool. So that's what we're gonna do. It's also a really good single fly. If you're fishing smaller rivers, this is one of the, there's a handful of flies that I like for the small rivers and spring creeks and stuff. It's just it drops nicely, it hits the water soft, it's really, really swimmy, super easy to tie. It's just repetitive, you're doing the same thing 3 or 4 times, but it's pretty easy. So on the, and this is again, this is gonna be a 1720 3X long hook. It's a nymph hook. This fly, you can tie it on anything you want, 2X, 3X, it doesn't really matter. It's just, it's supposed to be a small minnow, so I'm gonna have it on a short hook. This is number 4 that we're gonna tie. The body is going to be cactus chenille, medium cactus chenille. You could do it on any crystal chenille. I don't vary this fly. I've never changed the color of it. This is the birthplace of the barely legal. It started out as this fly, and then we articulated it and became the barely legal. And I've always used this. Just if you use crystal chenille, it's small. You can do small. This is medium on the cactus chenille on the body, and that's basically all there is to it, is body and the marabou. So the original, the OG, was with this grizzly marabou. And I'm going to use that on that, but since I don't really remember when I tied this fly, it's probably been 12, 15 years ago, but this is what I used originally. I really like this stuff. You got to sort through it a lot, but since that came out, another one, the mini barred marabou from Montana Fly, real good substitute for this stuff. It's shorter, you're going to use a lot of it up, but this stuff is artificially barred, so you get a little bit more consistency. And then the other one, in actuality, this is what I used originally, because I used to buy these things like this, and then they started packaging it. And so, but I originally started with this. I don't think it was whiting. This is soft hackle chickaboo. These are pretty cheap. They're under 20 bucks. Can't remember how much they are. How much? 18 bucks. But you get this really big patch up here of the chickaboo. And then you get your soft hackle, your kind of hen hackle down here. If you're doing matukas, if you're doing any of the traditional stuff like that, Mike's Pex minnow is a great little minnow, a little sculpin. These are great for the gills. There's a lot of versatility to this, so you get a lot of extra product, but that's that whiting soft hackle chickaboo. It comes in, man, I don't know, we probably have it in 10 colors at least. And so, but this is kind of what I started with, but then they started packaging it like that, and so I went to that. And then last thing is just a couple hackles, and I used my dry fly hackle on this. I like these quality hackles. They're just, and I'm gonna be up in here, so it's not down in the sweet spot. I'm gonna be up in here on my accent. And last but not least is gonna be, I did this originally with yellow head, and a lot of the commercial ones have got green heads or different colored heads. I don't know why I used yellow on it, but I really like it. It looks good to me. But like everything, you just kind of adapt it how you want it. So to get started, I'm gonna take just get a little wax on there, and I'm gonna leave just like always. See, I'm gonna leave a good, I'm gonna want about a 6, 7, 8 turn head, meaning that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably a 6 turn head on this. I want it to be a little bit, I want it to show just a little bit. And so I'm going to come back here, right as we always do, right to the gouge, the barb, so it's hanging down right where it starts. And now there's two types of and the original one I used all of this woolly this grizzly marabou, but except on the tails. I used this regular marabou on that. I already plucked one out of here, just because. And I'm going to show you on the bellies. I'm going to show you 2 or 3 options. And so on this one though, I always like my tail to be the length of the body. And that's what's really moving on your fly. And so I like it to be the tail to be the length of the body, and like it to be nice and wispy. So I used a regular marabou. Don't put that in your mouth. And then it's the length of the hook. So I'm just getting this where it belongs. Got some thread in there. The length of the hook. I'm just going to do a pinch wrap right here. Come in, set it right between my fingers. One, go straight over. One from right to left. One from left to right, and that's your anchor, and you're set. I'm going to clip this really tight. I'm not going to build my body with it. There's just too many layers on this to build up. So now I'm going to go, and this is the downside to the grizzly marabou, is that you've got to sort this stuff. You've got to have, and on this one in particular, and what I do is I don't sit and play in this, going in and out of this bag, I'm picking one and looking. I go through it and I go very quickly, and what I would suggest to you is to look through this stuff, and as you sort, do not put this back anywhere. Just throw it away. You've already sorted its junk. Get rid of it. And so you can go through it relatively quickly. And what I'm looking for is a nice long, full plume, because I want it to be back there moving around. And so I'm going to pull this out of here and just look at, and again, this is going to have 4 more stacks identical. So we're going to get a good layering effect. And I think that's a lot of the effect of the fly, is that it layers down in there and it gives you that kind of segmented looking body, which would be a gill effect, or a scale effect. And so this one is not big enough. It's long enough. I don't like how that's set there. Get back there. And I want to show you something before I go on. I just got to find a junky one. So this one here, this feather is really twisted, right? This is not what I want to see on that fly on the tail. On the tail, I want a really full, long plume, and this is why these bags are like $5 for a bag of this. And as I always say in these things, you've always got drop. You're gonna have 30 on a natural product. It's just you're gonna end up with 30% drop roughly, no matter what. And so when you go into this chickaboo thing, this is pretty well all the same. This stuff here, it's pretty much all the same. It's 18 bucks. By the time you sort it, you get way less drop on that. You're probably on it. You're right on a wash, man. You're on a push. That's right going to be about the same as buying these bags, because you're going to lose a lot of this. And so I had the one here, and this one just had a little bit of curve, so I'm going to have putting 2 on it. And as we go forward, we're going to do that a lot. We're going to put doubles on. So I'm going to get this on here. Oh, by the way, if you don't know what this is, I've got a piece of wax on here. My buddy Kurt was telling me about how, waxing this GPS, even though it was waxed, how much better it held. And I don't know why, and I never really done it on the GPS. And then I was watching one of Davey McField's shows, and he always put this stuff on his finger. And he's like, I've never done it. I'm gonna try it right now. Never done it in my life. So, but it seemed like a cool idea. It's not my idea, but it's pretty much anything that cat does is good with me, because I really like his ties. So come in here, double this up. So I got a nice full tail, and I'm gonna wrap that a little bit forward. Come back, make sure that my tie off, and make sure you haven't spun anything, right? Everything's clean here. That one hackle is it's a little twisted. And I don't like that, but it's not bad when we get done. So now let's say you don't have. I'm always talking about how I only use the tips of this stuff, and so there's a junk one. That one, no use for, so get it going. So I'm going to come in here. I just want to get one I can show you something with. I'm going to use, there's 2 types of marabou. There's the strung, blood quills, And then there's Woolly Bugger Marabou. And Woolly Bugger Marabou is this short stuff here. I set the package down. I can show you the name of it, but it's just Woolly Bugger Marabou. And I never really understood that because it's really not that great for tails on a woolly bugger. It's too short, too stumpy, but it's great for this thing. So you can come in here, and because we're going to do so many layers, it just gives you an incredible, you can see how thick these feathers are like this, right? I'm going to be able, and that's what I'm going to do this with. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to pull pieces one at a time. And I'll pull, you'll see when I do it, I'm going to pull like an inch of it. But let's say you don't have that. You can come into your regular marabou, just your strung marabou plume, come into the side, and it doesn't hurt you to take these that are a little bit compromised. Like that one I threw away was a little bit compromised. You can come in and just take your fingernail and just pop that like that. All right, and you can see it's a pretty good substitute for that. And it's when the time you tie it in and the way you break it with your thumbnail, you can get away with regular, so you don't have to have both for this fly. So, but I'm going to use what I did on the original one, and which was Woolly Bugger Marabou. And I'll show you there. So here's that plume. I already stripped the after shaft, the junk down here off, and so you can see how nice and thick that stuff is. And so, and it's all the same length. So I can come in here and I can put it on, but I don't. And you could use that for the tail too. So I don't know, got ahead of myself there. So to the body. So this is, this is another tip I want to give you for, I don't do it here. I don't use chenille as much as I used to, but in my old shop, or my old fly tying room, I mean, I would take my chenilles, and it's, if you've got the space, and because you can see this stuff is, it's like flat. I was working it a second ago trying to get it all hanging out and off to the edge, but when it comes out of the package, it's super flat, right? So when you're wrapping it, it has a tendency to not just lay out and get all full like it should. It'll end up being okay, but if you take this out of if you have the space, like if you had a drawer on your, if you have a cabinet of some sort, on my shop, in my fly tying room, I used to hang it on the wall, and I would take that whole thing out and string it over a nail, right? So I'd have 5 or 6 colors on just a nail that long, doesn't matter. And you let it hang there, it'll get nice and full. Take all those little edges out of it so you're not, and it'll just lay out and fill out. I don't use the chenille as much as I used to, otherwise it would be hanging back there. And so I don't get this flat. So when you work with this stuff, with any chenilles, you always strip the ends off. I don't know if I kind of went faster. So you come in here and just strip those off. You want to tie in those 2 cords. Tie that in, you don't get bulk. You'll get a much stronger fly. So I'm going to come right here, do a pinch wrap, make sure I'm right where I belong, my thread's hanging down, and move forward. I'm going to do this in quarters now. All right? And so I am now going to go very repetitive. I'm going to do this in quarters. Everything's going to be the same. Want to hit the fast forward? You could right now, because we're going to do this over and over and over. So I'm going to do this first turn right here, making sure that I get 1 full turn right where it belongs, and then I stretch it. You can see how I stretch that nice and tight. Make sure that you have a hold of your tail so it shouldn't twist anyway, but make sure it doesn't. And then I'm just going to go 3 or 4 turns forward, and we're going to stop and we're going to layer. All right. If you want to tie that off, you want to cut that off and retie it, you can. If you don't, just leave it. And now back to that marabou, that Woolly Bugger Marabou. I'm going to take, in each one of these, I want to get slightly, just slightly thicker. When I get to the front one, I want that to be just a little thicker than the other one. And so I'm going to come in here, and remember, this is going to get layered. And when you, a lot of these flies, the thing I see done wrong on this fly more than anything, it's too thick. It's just got too much material on it. The less material you have on this, the more this fly is going to swim and undulate. And so I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it on here off to the side, and what I want you to see here, might be easier on this side, I want to go halfway through the tail. So each one of these is going to go halfway through the next one. So there's my tail, which is nice and long. I'm going to put this one in, and it's going to be half the length, half the way down it. Get off of there. Okay, so there's the one. Just getting it tied in there. Had a little problem. I hooked my I hooked my material. What happened? There it is. Got ahead of myself and hooked that. That was an extra turn I don't like. I like 3 turns on those. I don't like more than that. Clip it off. Come over. Make sure it's laying where it belongs. Come in here. On this one you can have a single. On the next, all the rest of them I'll probably end up doubling. Just try to get a nice thick one if you're going to run singles. Come in here. Layer it so it's halfway across the top. Come over that. That's nice. So it's nice and laid down. Come forward 2 or 3 turns. Repeat. Stepped right over top of that. Now make sure that you go right over top of that wing. So that's a little sparse. That's a little cheesy. I want that a little thicker. But it's not going to get one. Okay. Tie this off so you can see it. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Now, but even with this stuff, you got to make sure, like right there I was going to grab, that one had that was all kind of broke off. This one's slightly thicker than the last one. Come in here. Same length. No, we're going to do the same thing. This is what, and this will kind of hide a little bit of, if you do something wrong, you can kind of hide it. It'll go right over top of that. Get this out of your way, like I did last time. I'm not as good with that wax in my finger as Davey McPhail is. I've hooked it about 5 times now. So he's done it a little longer. Got 2 good turns on there. And this is where what Davey does with his is, like the wax is a good anchor, right? It really helps without cement. And he just kind of does that and hits it with his finger and come back. I'm just getting used to it. In a year or 2, I'll say, man, this is the greatest thing ever. Or I'll never use it again. I don't know. One never knows. So I got another one. That first one I put on was a little bit, just a little bit sparse. I'm going to take this one, just get a hold of it, lay it right nice and flat. I want it to be about half the length right there. Lock him in. I want a second one. If I do doubles, I try to get like a little bit thinner one on this one. You know, you just got to figure out how your layer, how you want it to look. So this one, I want it to be a little bit, I'm just trying to build that taper. And if I've got a compromised feather, I always put it on the bottom. If you say you're running low on these, you're like, man, this one's a little twisted, put it on the bottom so you can cover it with a cleaner one on the top. Coming forward, right back over top. Make sure, just get a hold of that, go right over top. You don't want to have that air gap in there. You want to see that pearl all the way in there. Just, if you have to go, I had to do an extra one there. Okay. Not using my rotary just because that's just as fast to do it this way. Make sure you do not go past where you started that thread. You got to have room for that. You got to have room for that hack or your head. And this one's going to be a little bit longer. I'm looking at this feather, making sure I've got, thing won't stand, that it's got enough build in the body there. This one's going to be, because I don't like to do the bottom ones, I just use more. I don't try to layer the bottom one. So I got a little bit more there. Same thing, going to turn it over. Look at it halfway through. Whoa, dull scissors. Pinch, get a hold of it. Kind of stood up right there, I don't like that. That's all going to lay down when we get going here. Clean that up a little bit. Okay. That's a pretty clean one. I want a little bit fluffier one back here. I'm using 2 again, so I'm gonna put a mouthful of marabou now. Stop that rolling around. Same thing, I'm gonna take this one, kind of got wound up here. It's like my first fly. Get back in there. Wreck that. I'm fighting this wax. I keep catching it on everything. I told you, for you speed guys, you slow haters, you could have hit fast forward. I truly believe with this fly, the layering it really has a lot to do with its success. And multiple light ones is better than one big one. Okay, make sure you leave space for your head. Final one. Make sure your marabou's not hooked in it. And just right now, take your time to go right back over that, because I want to see when you're doing this, you want to see that crystal chenille on the side. Come through, 2, 3. Get a 4th one in there. Same thing, when you tie this off, same thing. Cut it and then peel that stuff off of there. And you can see these 2 cords. You can cut them right to length, but that's a guaranteed tie down. You're not going to lose that. That material is not going to pull out. If you leave all that stuff in there, it'll get loose and you'll lose some. I don't think I have enough for that with that particular one. This one's got to be the longest and the thickest of all these. Just gonna grab find one that's really good. Again, it's not that critical really that they're super clean, because there's so many of them in there. Still, always lose that bottom inch of this stuff, or what just look at it, but it's almost always compromised in that bottom end. So this one I'm going to take just a little bit, and when I do that, what I'm doing is I'm pulling it off to the side so it's all the same, so they straight on the bottom. If you leave it how it is and you just pull it, you're going to have a taper to that bottom, to the tips of it. And so I'm getting that straight, so when I pull it off, they're all the same length. So this last one, looks a little gooey in there because I got it all wet, but I cut this one, so tie it in so it's the same. I didn't get a good tie-in on that. Had a little short right there. So nice, that's your fullest one right there. Clean that head up. So what I want to be able to see is, as these layers, as they come through, I want to keep seeing this chenille. It's all I'm trying to leave out there. And now, I'm not sorting how I say to. This one's got to be the best one on top, just because you're going to see it. So I'm going to have a double up here, so I want 2, if I can, 2 nice ones. So that one's pretty good. That one's not bad. Not great, not bad. But you can see, if I was sorting this, like a lot of these, you just huck them, just throw them away, because you're never going to use them. Some of them aren't even marabou. So the last one here, this one's got a little bit of a twist to it, so I'm going to put it. That one's going to be the bottom one. It's got a little bit of a twist. I'm running out of material there. And so this one was pretty clean. He's kind of pretty. Put him right over the top. fold that, let that fold around it. Make sure the stem is right in the middle, right on top. Cut him off, just nice tight. Now we're gonna build this head, come back into the body just a little bit. I want, like I said, about a 6-turn head. And then we're gonna take this dyed Olive Grizzly. I'm gonna come in here. You probably don't need this, I just think it looks good. You probably, I don't know, I put it on all mine. I shouldn't say you probably don't need it because it wouldn't be complete without it. But so I'm going to take this and I'm going to move that. Jeremy's going to yell at me. Did I get us out of focus?
Oh, you're good.
Man, I got to watch Davey's tape because I'm stuck this stuff. I started out with this stuff. I got it everywhere. It's a disaster. So I'm going to come in here. I got it on my fingers. And I'm going to take this, got it on my feather, I got it everywhere. And I want it to be slightly, as this thing starts to get less, I want it to be slightly longer than the overall body. So I'm going to take that, cut that off of there. I now have wax on my feather and I have it on my finger. It's a disaster, but real time. So here we go. I put 2 turns on it, and before you proceed, just make sure that feather's laying where you want it to lay. It twisted on me a little bit because I got all this wax on my hand, and so, but that's okay. It's still twisted. I like it to be up just a little bit. Then just kind of work down. Don't try to set it with your first 2. Take your other one. Can't get the wax off my hands. All right, we can't deal with this. That's not set properly. That's better. Now we go to the other side. You should do these at the same time so you can see. You should lay them back in each other so you can see that they're the same length. I haven't tied one of these in a long time. So we're going to come to the back side and we want it to sit same spot. That's good. And we're going to come down. Not all the way. Clip that off of there. Oh, I got my dull scissors. Start to clean that up, and as we go forward, we'll have a cleaner head with that yellow. There. Nice. Oh. Seven turns, I think that was. And so, there. So that is the original Smoke Wagon. You can see it's pretty sparse on the belly, and you can see because I've got 4 layers on there, and you can see that they're progressively, they go halfway through as they lay back. They lay, half to 3/4 back over the other ones. Front one can be a little longer, same with the top. Got these accents in here. When this thing gets wet, it kind of starts, you kind of see, you can see it if you look in the book, if you've got it, you can see how they layer down. But this is truly, and when trailer flies, and the other time this is a really good fly for me is in the spring. When you got a lot of young of the year around, that thing really kicks for me. And you can run them tandem. Sometimes when I know there's a bunch of, like in the east where you got salmon and steelhead, especially when you have salmon going back, their fry go back in giant balls. There's just thousands and thousands of them, probably tens of thousands per ball. You can see them, they're just maybe 6-8 feet long sometimes. And there's a lot of other juvenile fish in the spring, which this fly is really good. It's just that 2-tone effect is just something. I don't know why it's so effective. And it'll flutter, it'll do this, go back and forth, great on a single, like on a lightweight rod. you know, if you're running, you know, 4s and 5 weights and you're on the smaller rivers, it's really something. Hope you liked it. Hope it helps you out.